All right, guys, we're going to talk about the AFC East, and we are going to go over each team in the East and give you their floor and their ceiling of what we think their total wins will be this year. Tristan's going to give you his take on it. I'm going to lead this segment here. I'll pitch in when I need to, but really I want to get your opinion, Tristan, on where you think the floor and ceiling is for all these teams. And then obviously next week we'll jump over and do a whole nother bracket. First up tonight is going to be the Buffalo Bills. My Bills, they open up at 11.5. Last year they finished with 13-4. Of course, they lost to your Chiefs in the conference championship, unfortunately. Tristan, I ask you to give me their floor, give me their ceiling.
Bills are always going to be good. Safety is a bad position for them. I do have notes I'm glancing at, so just heads up, because I went through and thought through all of this. DeMar Hamlin, Taylor Rapp, those are what they've got. It's not a reliable unit. Hamlin, great story. Really great story. Like the guy, like the player. He should not be your starting safety. He's a rotational safety at best. He can't be your top guy. Julian Blackmon is a free agent. He would be a really good target for Buffalo. Depending on the price contract, he's probably going to want $20 million guaranteed, probably a 3-year deal or more, but he would be a major upgrade. I think that would help the defense. That's one of their big needs, what I think they should try to find a way to address. Obviously, we'll see how the draft picks come along. The ceiling is easy. It's a Super Bowl. That is the ceiling when Josh Allen's your quarterback, Sean McDermott. Because ceiling is absolute best case scenario and floor is worst case scenario. That's what it is. It's best and worst case scenario. It's not saying you believe either of those. That's just what we're doing. The ceiling is a Super Bowl. Ideally, the ceiling is the defense taking another step in the right direction, getting Joey Bosa. If Bosa stays healthy, it gives him a legit edge rusher to get after quarterbacks. You pair him with Rousseau, that defensive line really coming into its own. If they were able to avoid injuries that always plagues the defense, have a top 5 unit on defense, have Josh Allen have another incredible MVP caliber season where he's able to elevate his wide receiver group. Could Coleman improve? Shakir continue to improve? James Cook deliver? I think the ceiling is a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense, and you win a Super Bowl. That would be where they could go and best case scenario, but it's absolutely on the board for Buffalo. The floor is where it gets interesting to talk about this team because everybody agrees with ceiling. Okay, whatever, not much to talk about. The floor. Hold that thought 1 second. Take a look down below and see if you're subscribed to the channel. If not, hit that red button and subscribe. Help out your 2 favorite idiots covering one sport because don't you want to feel better about your sports opinions? Statistically speaking, I think the worst case scenario is a first round playoff exit. They win the division and they get bounced at home as the 2 seed. That's what I think is the floor, or as the 3 or 4 seed, whatever. They're going to win the division and they get bounced in the first round of the playoffs. But that led me to think, and I wanted to ask you, the resident Bills fan, would that be worse than losing to the Chiefs again? So I say the floor is losing in the wild card round to a random team like the Texans. Is that the floor? Or is there a case to be made that another playoff loss to Kansas City would be more devastating than a first round loss to the Texans or whoever? Because it's starting to feel like the Bills need a playoff victory over Kansas City more than they need a Super Bowl.
So I'll start off by saying I appreciate you putting the ceiling as the Super Bowl. I do agree with you. I mean, if you look at last year, the Bills were not supposed to be as good as they were. It was kind of a little bit of a surprise. We thought it was going to be more of a rebuild year last year, and they wound up making it to the conference championship. So
I want to say I never wavered. I always believed in them.
A lot of people in the media did, including myself a little bit.
Sure.
So especially that run of games where they did not look so hot. A first-round playoff exit is bad. To your question, Kansas City, we lose to them, or if we lose to another team like the Texans or something. And I have thought long and hard about this because a little behind the scenes here, pulling the curtain back, you prepped me for this question about 2 days ago, and it's been on my mind. My final answer is going to be that a loss in the first round is just as bad whether it's Kansas City or any other team.
Okay, so no, I'm saying like, would you rather them, what do you think's worse, losing in the wild card to the Texans or losing in the conference championship? So you get further but lose to the Chiefs, or you don't have to face it, you don't lose to the Chiefs but you lose earlier. You still think that's worse?
I still think that's worse.
Okay.
And the reason is because I think people respect the rivalry of Kansas City and the Bills so much.
They're not going to put a lot of blame on them.
Correct. Right? So like, it's almost a crutch to us. Like, oh yeah, but we lost to the Chiefs.
Right.
You know, like the Chiefs are just that iconic. Like they're the Patriots of this era.
Yeah, it's like losing to Brady or Jordan, or it's
right.
Well.
Yeah, but we go in and we lose to a team like the Texans. You know, where we should beat them on any given Sunday.
So it would be like that Bengals loss a couple years ago at home in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would be like that.
Yes, and that hurt worse. Honestly, losing to the Chiefs suck, and maybe it's just a little bit of maybe bias because I've been to a lot of Chiefs games, and you're my best friend, and you're a Chiefs fan, and I do like the Chiefs, and I like what they're doing. I like this run because I respect sports so much, and especially the NFL and what teams are able to do in a certain period of time. Losing to the Chiefs, I've never felt like, yeah, man, it sucks, but I never felt like nasty about it.
Well, they also play them really close. Like they're always really competitive games. Yeah.
And the Chiefs have us in the playoffs. That's just how it, we have you in the regular season, y'all have us in the playoffs. That's just what it is. So it's never really hurt that bad, but like that year when the Bengals walked up and down the field on us.
That was a gut punch.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I was sick for 2 or 3 days after that. So, yeah, I think that the rivalry has built itself up so much that it's similar, in our state, Alabama and Auburn. Like, whenever we play each other, we know it's going to be a good game. As long as Auburn's not like some kind of, out of the rank, out of the top 25 team, it's going to be a good football game, and you're excited to see it. And if we lose, like, it sucks. But for some reason, it just doesn't suck like if you got beat by San Jose State.
Right. It does feel different.
It feels different. And so that is my answer. I would rather lose to the Chiefs, lose to the Chiefs in further down the road in the playoffs than get kicked out by Texans or pick any other team there in an earlier round, like a wild card, because it just emotionally for me feels worse in that situation than losing to the Chiefs.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. I think that makes sense. It's I don't even think this is, like I said, the floor, I think, is a first-round playoff loss in the wild card round. I don't think that's expected. I think the Bills will win a playoff game minimum. It seems like they do it every year. Josh Allen's just getting better and better. But that would be that'd be the worst this season goes. Obviously, I'm not counting for injuries. Anything like that could happen. But with Josh Allen, you're going to be a Super Bowl contender and own this division.
All right, next up in the AFC East is going to be the Miami Dolphins. They open up at 8.5. Last year, they finished 8-9. Tristan, give us the floor and give us the ceiling.
Yeah, so Miami, obviously, I was low on them last year compared to everybody. I turned out to kind of be correct. And
they did have a losing season.
Yeah, so, I have a similar take this year. First off, like I do with each of these, I'm just kind of looking at needs. They're desperate for cornerback. Ramsey probably going to be traded. They needed another corner, even if Ramsey stayed. You can't rely on Cam Smith and Storm Dunk, either way. No, it doesn't matter. He's not going to be like your reliable cornerback. Not a ton of free agency options I can see them going after. Rasul Douglas, Sante Samuel Jr., Mike Hilton, Stephon Gilmore, all available. But Miami needs 2 of them. So I don't know how they're going to address that position. We'll see. The ceiling. What is the best case, but realistic for Miami? Because you could say for any team, well, the ceiling's the Super Bowl. All right. But realistically, what would be Miami absolutely reaching their peak? Because I really don't believe in the team. 9 wins seems like a lot to me. I genuinely think 8 wins is the ceiling for the Miami Dolphins. I really do. You could argue. Division. Yeah. And just the way the team is constructed, people are finally realizing that Mike McDaniel is kind of an overrated coach. And the big problem that we've continued to talk about is that they're a soft football team. They don't have the toughness. The ceiling, really, even more so than the wins, is Tua playing every game, because they win when Tua plays and they lose when he's out. His health really defines where their season goes. So the ceiling is him playing every single game. They win 8, maybe 9 of them. I think that would be, and surprising. They're good for some of the regular season, squeak into 9 wins, and that would be it. Wishful thinking, a lot of people would say they could make the playoffs, win a playoff game. That's just not going to happen. Not the way this team is constructed. I'd be shocked if they won, because they don't want to change their identity. We've seen this. Vic Fangio was their defensive coordinator, and he's a great defensive coordinator, seen what he's done with the Eagles, and he didn't work for them. He was too tough for them. They continue to embrace the small guy speed stuff, and they need a philosophy change. They need an identity change, and they need to embrace toughness. I don't think they're going to do it. We've heard Mike McDaniel talk about discipline issues, the Tyreek situation. So that leads me into the floor. Like I said, ceiling 8 wins, 9 if you're being generous. The floor for Miami could be a complete meltdown. Like, I really do think that's kind of the wiggle room we're dealing with the Dolphins. Under Mike McDaniel, they're 3-7 when Tua doesn't play. Anyone being honest would have to tell you that the floor is Tua missing a significant amount of time and the Dolphins falling apart. I hope that doesn't happen, but it's a possibility. And that's just what everyone in the building accepts with Tua as your quarterback. So the floor is Tua getting hurt, missing a lot of games, and you getting 5, maybe 6 wins. I think that's probably where it goes. The realistic scenario is it's probably somewhere in between the two, but I definitely could see the floor for this team being 5 wins and just a disastrous season where they may even talk about cleaning house afterwards.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on both takes, man. I think 8 wins is a stretch. Like, that feels like too many for them this year. Because when you look at this division, aside from, the Jets, and you could even argue the Jets to some extent, all these teams have made some improvements. And you just don't look at Miami as like you did 2 or 3 years ago when they were that super high-powered offense. So I do have a question, though, when it comes to Mike McDaniel. So in the stock market world, they have a phrase. It's called buy the rumor, sell the news, right? So that just means that you hear the talks of something and you get invested into it. And then when the news breaks at its peak, that's when you sell off and let everybody else crash out. You make your profit, right? Did we do that with Mike McDaniel? Did we say that, okay, this guy came from nothing. His story, the rumor, says that he should be this really, really good coach. He's proven to be in certain situations, and now we've hit that peak. At what point are we going to sell the news and say that maybe he's just not cut out for it? Maybe he's just not the guy. Because as weeks go by and as seasons go by, I become less and less of a Mike McDaniel fan like I used to be. I just don't think matureness is not there, and I think that he probably tried to reinvent the wheel a little too fast. And I just don't know that he's cut out yet to be that type of coach to take Miami into the playoffs and let alone a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he could be a really, really talented offensive coordinator. But we've seen calling plays, being a coordinator, doing this stuff, and being a head coach, it is a different job. And the big problem for him, too, is when he's openly talking about discipline issues and they can't get guys to show up on time and guys are late. Do you think Andy Reid has guys showing up late all the time? No.
And you think if he did, he would actually be just talking about it out in public with the media?
He might be talking about it because they wouldn't be on the fucking team anymore.
Right.
Like, everybody looks at Andy Reid and I'm not trying to make this a Chiefs thing. I'm really not. But everybody looks at Andy Reid and it's like, oh,
still managed to do it.
Everybody's like, oh, the big nice guy. And no, they have like some of the toughest training camps. He's still old school. They don't, and to even take Andy Reid, Sean McVay, you think he's having trouble with player discipline? No. So that's just something that's why they're not a tough football team. It's not just the identity on the field. It's the way they handle things off the field.
This is where the maturity comes in.
Exactly.
And
that's
look,
exactly right.
Mike McDaniel has a long career left in football, right? I'm just saying maybe not yet.
Right.
Maybe we pushed him into this a little too fast and we bought that rumor and now it's bottomed out and we didn't sell the news, man. And we're in negative territory now. And it's going to be hard to gain it back. But I don't think that he makes it past, say, the end of this year. He finishes 6-11, right? You think he's gone? Do you think there's a situation where 6-11, and especially if the last stretch of games is the majority of the losses? So say they come out of the gate swinging early and they win a couple, but say the latter half of the year, they hit a string of losses, maybe 5 or 6 in a row. Do you think that the seat becomes hot for Mike?
I think it would depend on Tua. If Tua was playing and they're losing games, yeah, maybe. If Tua's out, it's basically like a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Healthy team. I
don't think so because they extended him this offseason. I think the owner, they don't want to, Stephen Ross, they don't want to be turning over coaches. I think they like him.
I mean, I like fried chicken, but I can't eat it every day.
No, I understand. I think me and you have always been more reserved and fair about Mike McDaniel. But when he first came into the league in that first year, it's like we saw this offense and we're like, oh my God, that speed and everything. But then we saw what happened when they got late in the season and they had to play physical teams on the road in January. And you're like, oh, they fall apart. Yeah, they're great in Miami, in September, but it's just completely different. And he doesn't get the, forgiveness that he got at the beginning of his career. I'm with you. I think he could end up being a good head football coach, but there's no doubt he has limitations, and I think this team has a lot of limitations.
The New York Jets open at 5.5. Last year, they finished 5-12 again, right on the money, Vegas. Aaron Glenn gets a first run at it, and obviously Aaron Rodgers is not going to be there, and you now have Justin Fields. So I'm not even really excited about this, but tell me your floor and your ceiling.
Yeah, it's the Jets, and that's why you're not excited about it, because
the defense got to hold you in there, right?
Yeah, that's really it. It's the New York Jets. They're always a disaster. They're a cursed franchise. They have a meddling owner. What can change? I put on here when I was making my notes and thinking through everything's general thoughts. This is really the question. Can Aaron Glenn redefine Jets culture and identity? That's it.
I'll pause you right there. If he does, he will go down in history books.
100%. And I also counter, I think if there's anyone to do it, he's the guy. Like, I really like Aaron Glenn.
I'm a big fan.
I think if he fails, it's not necessarily going to be all on his shoulders in New York. Are they going to get out of his way, let him do what he wants to do? We'll see. Can he turn this team into a dominant defensive team like he did with Detroit? Another question, what do you get out of Justin Fields? Because they have limited talent at wide receiver other than Garrett Wilson. They need Malachi Corley to kind of come on and contribute in year 2. What are realistic expectations for Justin Fields? Tyrod Taylor's the backup, so they've got a reliable quarterback room. I know Justin Fields has a lot of defenders, but his on-the-play field has never really warranted it, Ryan. He is not a stand in the pocket, go through his progressions, deliver the ball on time and on rhythm. That's just not what he is. He looks for his first read, maybe his second, and then he extends with his legs and looks to make plays. There's a reason Tomlin went with Russell Wilson when he got healthy. Mike Tomlin thinks Russell Wilson's a better quarterback. I think we all can accept that, and that's saying something. At this stage in Russell Wilson's career, they never decided to go back to Fields at Pittsburgh. He's just a limited quarterback. He's not going to read the field. He's not going to play quarterback. It's not sustainable. Unless you're able to hold opposing teams to under 20, I don't think Fields is going to pop for you. But they needed a starter. They made a right move getting him. It's a smart move just to establish the position with him and Tyrod Taylor. Corner isn't great. Defensive line isn't as strong as it used to be. They're going to have to adjust to the new coaching scheme. Is Aaron Glenn going to be able to get the most out of the guys like he did in Detroit while managing all the duties that come with being a head coach? Again, it's so different from being a coordinator to being the head coach. And now they're coming to you and being like, hey, they don't have hotel rooms here. Hey, manage this travel. Hey, this guy's wife's sick. Hey, this guy got into a car accident and the cops and led the cops on a chase. It's so much more. You know what I mean? You're dealing with everything. Everything comes to you. With that said, prefacing all that, setting up, because that's a lot. There's a lot of stuff going around with New York. The ceiling. They've only won more than 8 games once in the past 14 years.
If that doesn't make you dry heave as a Jets fan, I don't know what will.
Best case scenario, with looking at that statistic and the roster, first-year head coach, best case scenario would be they grind out 7 wins. I mean, and I think Jets fans would be really happy with that. Maybe Aaron Glenn gets the defense to play at a really high level immediately. Maybe he implements a culture change immediately. Maybe Justin Fields is solid and doesn't turn the ball over, and they, build a good foundation for the seasons to come with 7 wins. That's a big ask, but that's the ceiling for them, I think. I think everybody would be happy, Jets fans, if that happened. The floor would be that they're the New York Jets. Justin Fields continues to struggle, and he limits your ability to win any close games. Even when your defense delivers and keeps the game close, can Justin Fields go out there and deliver a game-winning drive? I don't think so. I'm skeptical on that. Maybe once. Maybe Aaron Glenn has trouble transitioning to head coach. We talk about how difficult that is. It's not seamless. There's a lot of bumps along the way. And also, maybe Woody Johnson is still the meddling owner that we know he is, and he continues to be that. And it gets in the way, and Aaron Glenn can't really do his job. This is a franchise that refuses to get out of its own way. So worst case scenario, the floor is they look like they have the past few years and struggle to find 5-6 wins.
Yeah, this is really a fork in the road for the Jets. It's reached that point. Are we going to choose to get out of our own way, like you said, or are we going to revert back to being the same old Jets? And I think it's time for a change, man. And I think bringing in somebody like Aaron Glenn, you said a question in your answer that really defines the entire Jets season is, can Aaron Glenn get the most out of the guys? That's the ceiling. You can put a number on it if you want, but if we watch football for 16, 17 weeks straight, and every week we see Aaron Glenn is getting the most out of his guys with what he has been dealt. Defensively, obviously, we expect that to be great. He's a defensive coach. He needs to keep that good. But offensively, if he can get the most out of Justin Fields and everybody else around him, then we can say that, okay, Aaron Glenn is starting a turn, an about face in the Jets organization. Because for the past 5 years that I've been really watching and we've been doing this podcast, however long it's been, I haven't seen the most out of every Jets player. Have you?
No.
Because I haven't.
No, absolutely
I've
not.
seen them fall apart several times. So to me, the ceiling's not even about a number. It's about what he's getting out of these guys every single week. And when you look at somebody like Aaron Glenn, the mentors he's had that he's played under and coached under, Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, Dom Capers, Vic Fangio, Mike Zimmer, Sean Payton, Dennis Allen, Dan Campbell, obviously. Like, he's got the resume as far as, like, if you could craft and mold a head coach for a first year, like, who would you want him to be under and be mentored by? Well, you said a bunch of names that I really like.
And we saw him do it with, particularly at the end of the year last year, when everyone on Detroit's defense got injured and they were starting 5 to 6 third-string guys and they were playing good. Like, that's what Aaron Glenn can do.
I think Dan Campbell did a really good job at letting his coordinator, his defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, be the head coach for the defense.
The trick there, though, I agree completely with that, is Dan Campbell went in there and established a culture and an identity immediately from that first press conference when everyone was laughing at him, literally laughing at the guy, being like, oh, biting kneecaps, who's this moron the Lions hired? No, he meant it. The guys bought in. They would die for him. Anytime you hear Dan Campbell talk, I don't play football. I'm like, yes, dude, let's do it. That's the biggest thing to me. It's like you said, get the most out of the players. I agree, but not just on the field, off the field. Can you get them to buy into a culture? Can you establish that like Dan Campbell did in Detroit? We never thought Detroit would be good in our lifetimes. We never did. And finally, they got a coach. They got out of the way, the owners did, and they let him live through the rough patch, and they're paying off. The Jets have to do the same thing.
Yeah. When you ask the Detroit player why are they doing something, they say, I don't know, Daddy Dan said to.
Dan said to do it.
Daddy Dan.
That's
so
right.
That's what they have to do with Aaron. And I think that if Aaron learned anything, and what I've heard from the talks about in the locker room, that he does have that same mentality as Dan Campbell. Obviously, it would be hard to work with somebody like Dan Campbell and not have that same mentality, right?
Right.
It wouldn't jive well, and he did it for a couple of seasons. So hopefully he's taken that Detroit culture with him to New York. If he doesn't, that is going to be the demise of Aaron Glenn as a head football coach. And look, out of all the head coach change-ups here, I would be willing to argue that Aaron Glenn has more riding on his shoulders than anybody else.
Interesting.
Because of what he is walking into. He's not walking into an organization that, somewhere like the Patriots that had a really good run and, the Patriots are an iconic team. He's not walking into somebody.
Or even the Bears where you got a young quarterback you can develop.
Right. And it's also the Bears. They're a legacy team. He's walking into the Jets, who have been a laughingstock of the NFL for at least the last 14 years. And honestly, more than that.
Since the 60s, yeah.
So,
70s.
So, yeah, I think that this is a big step out on the ledge for Aaron Glenn, because if he fails, it looks really bad. Name a lot of head coaches from the New York Jets that are still coaching high-level football to this day.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of opportunities after that.
You sure don't. All right, let's round out the AFC East with the New England Patriots. Their line, 8.5. Last year, 4-13.
Woo!
Oh.
If only someone could have seen the Gerard Mayo disaster coming.
Oh, like you mean you and I?
Yeah, two idiots.
We call that? The line is that's pretty high, man. It's a high bar, 8.5, especially in this division. Like the Patriots at 8.5. I mean, they're up there with the same line as the Dolphins.
Right.
Tell me about this. What do you think?
Okay, so first, I think the Dolphins are overpriced. I would bet, I might actually bet Dolphins under 8.5. I like that bet a lot.
You better get that for that line moves, buddy.
Right. I'm surprised. Patriots, I would be very tempted to take the over here. This one's tough. I could see the Patriots being a sneaky playoff
You're
team.
bullish on the Patriots, huh?
Not even bullish. And it's funny because I feel like I've been the Mike Vrabel critic. But, stability when you didn't have any is a big thing. Let's, again, look at needs similar to a couple teams in this division. Safety. Jabril Peppers is awesome, but the strong safety position was underwhelming. Kyle Duggar, he was not great last season. Maybe Marcus Epps, he gets a bigger role under Vrabel's defense. We don't know what that unit's going to look like. We'll see. I think that could go a long way in saying how this defense performs. The Patriots did a really great job at attacking the offensive line. Matter of fact, they had maybe one of the best, if not the best, off seasons. Free agency, the draft. Like, they killed it. They absolutely nailed it, starting with the Vrabel hire, with all their acquisitions, with their draft. It was fantastic. The offensive line was a major liability, and they've really done what they can to address it, best to their ability. Center and left guard are really the only significant question marks right now. It's a good chance that Bradbury is still going to start at center, but the team did attack the whole line in a smart way. Let's go straight into it. The ceiling. I'd be interested to see if you agree or if you think I'm wildly off base here. I think the best case scenario for New England is second in the division and actually making the playoffs as a wildcard team. For that to happen, you would need Drake May to take another step in his development. I was impressed with Drake May last year. I thought he looked really good. I thought he looked promising. I liked him, in the draft. I was surprised that there were talks about him not being good, maybe falling. So maybe he continues to show the promise from last year. Josh McDaniels, I believe, coming back. Like he gets what he got out of Mac Jones and obviously out of Tom Brady for all those years. So maybe he's better and he can steal a couple games with his talent. They've addressed the offensive line. Weapons aren't ideal. They added Stephon Diggs and they drafted Kyle Williams out of Washington State, who I kind of like. I think he's going to make an impact this season. I think we'll see a lot of him. I think he's going to be a target May relies on. Let's see. Oh, they drafted Travion Henderson, running back from Ohio State. Love that pick. That should really help improve the run game. So they've done what they can in this short window to address the weapons, address the offensive line. They're attacking the offseason like a smart franchise. If the offense can take a leap and the defense can get even better, playing hard-nosed football like we expect them to do under Mike Vrabel. We know, think about those Titans teams all those years with Vrabel. The defense was always really good. I mean, he had Ryan Tannehill making the playoffs, for God's sakes. And I think we would agree Drake May is more talented than Ryan Tannehill. At least it seems that way at this point. They should be able to be physical, keep the score close, and hope that Drake May can make some plays late. There's a reason Vegas set the line at 8.5, because I think the ceiling is 10 wins. That's probably pushing it, but I could see them winning 9 games and sneaking into a playoff spot. Opposite side, the floor. The floor probably happens if Drake May regresses, or we just don't see the improvement. Maybe he's not the quarterback we thought he was. Maybe the talent just doesn't continue to translate. The offensive line issues didn't get as resolved as they do on paper, and their lack of weapons hurts their production. They're not able to capitalize on games when the defense delivers. Maybe the defense even doesn't get better in secondary. They're not as good as we thought. The transition for Mike Vrabel is tougher than we expected. I still think they should be solid, and this should be a really good foundational year, even if things go bad. I would say the floor is 7 wins, and the improvement is slow going. Maybe we don't start to see it till late in the season, but I think either way, Patriots fans should be optimistic.
Yeah, I don't hate this take at all. When you look at the division, it is that number 2 spot is really up in the air. The Patriots, they are that dark horse in this division to me. Like, they're that team that, like, they were so bad last year and people may discredit them. But I do think that this is kind of a fresh start for the Patriots in some aspects, because we know that Mayo was really a continuation of the Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft system. And now Vrabel's in there, and it's going to be a whole new world. So Vrabel has been known to take the bull by its horns. Like, he wants things his way, and that's just how it is. Vrabel also played at the Patriots, remember?
Right.
And so this is really kind of a flashback to where he came from. So this is roots. He's got roots here. He's going to care a little bit more about this team probably than most teams he's coached before. So I'm interested to see how it goes. I'm not ready to say that 10 wins is their ceiling. I would probably put them at about 9. I know it doesn't sound that different, but in NFL terms, that's a whole nother loss, right? So and I do think their ceiling could be around the 6 mark.
You mean their floor?
I'm sorry, their floor could be around the 6 mark. So I'm not ready to go all in. You're probably a little bit more. I know you're not bullish on them, but you're probably a little bit more bullish than I am.
If they won 4 games with Gerard Mayo, if they only improved 2 games with Vrabel, I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I'd be really surprised.
Right. What I don't know, the question mark is how have all these other teams shaped up? Like that's really
fair.
the big question. So I do think that they have a really good shot at coming in second in this division. I agree with you there. If that happened at the end of the year, I'm not going to be like, whoa.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about? You mean Vrabel, a really good head coach, got the team? By the way, Vrabel should have been there last year.
Yeah,
okay?
Agreed.
Like, look, this should have happened already.
Right.
So that's a knock against the Patriots organization there. But Mayo had to get his 1 year guaranteed, I guess, out of the way. It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be really interesting to see how Vrabel reconstructs the Patriots because since Belichick's left, this is the first maybe foundation head coach that we've had in there in a long time that hasn't been named Bill Belichick.
Well, I was going to say, I think this is the first time since Brady left in 2019 where I'm genuinely excited to watch the Patriots because I saw enough out of Drake May last year. I liked him in the draft. And then what I saw out of him last year, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I think, I don't know. I don't know what he can turn into. I'm not saying like he looked like Josh Allen or anything, but he looked good. It's like, oh, this guy could be a solid starter if the development continues. And with Josh McDaniels, we saw what he got. McDaniels, I know he was a disaster head coach, but he's a good coordinator. And we saw what he got out of Mac Jones, that rookie season before he left. Who knows how things would have looked if he never left. We saw what he got out of Brady. So maybe he's able to really elevate Drake May. We know, again, mostly though, Kraft will get out of the way because he's going to let Vrabel do it. And they've got a grown-up in charge again. Gerard Mayo was not ready to be a head coach. He should have never gotten that job with 0 head coaching experience, 0 coordinating experience. It was crazy. Mike Vrabel will bring a toughness and a resolve to the Patriots that they are used to. And I don't see any scenario where this, at the end of the season, Patriots fans are disappointed. I think they're going to be happy for the future after 2025.
I will say this last point. When Mike Vrabel was successful, the defense obviously stepped up. Ryan Tannehill was not a great quarterback. Never has been. But who was running the football?
Derrick Henry.
Who did they draft?
Travion Henderson.
I'm not drawing a comparison between Henry and Henderson here. This is not what I'm doing. What I'm saying, though, is look for the Patriots to utilize that run game because I think it fits in a Mike Vrabel scheme.
Yes. Well, it's also taking pressure off your quarterback, your young quarterback. We can't, that's what so many these teams do, that they get a young quarterback and they ask him to do everything. It's like, no, how about we give him a solid run game? We give him receivers. We give him an offensive line. So
you got Ramondre Stevenson still, by the way.
Right.
By the way, won some football games last year. Like he's a good running back. Now, Travion Henderson has the potential to be 4 times better than Stevenson.
Yeah.
So I think that the Patriots were really intelligent in their decision-making in this draft. Like, I think that was a really good pick for them. And I believe that it just jives well with Vrabel's style of coaching because we saw him do it at Tennessee. So if this is going to, replicate anything that he did at Tennessee, you take away Tannehill and you put Drake May in, I think Drake May's a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah. I think absolutely without question. Also, I forgot they've got Antonio Gibson, who, he had 500 yards for him last year. But with him, Stevenson, and then Henderson out of Ohio State, that should be a good rotational backfield for sure.
Henderson has the opportunity to do really big things this year. I really believe that he could be, top 5 rookies if he really puts his mind to it and is very successful in a Vrabel scheme. I think he could be a really big, important part of this team that may be a little undervalued going into the season coming up this year.